It's time for the best coverage of the top stories in sports. The Sports Wrap with Jason Page starts now.
On a Wednesday, and great to have you with us all across America and Canada. Thanks for being here. Lots to do over the next 60 minutes. Terry Bradshaw is talking about Aaron Rodgers. You're going to want to hear what he has to say. Well, Aaron Rodgers may not want to hear what he has to say, but you'll want to hear what he has to say. Oilers and Panthers, both one win away from a Stanley Cup Finals rematch. We'll talk about that. We'll also have a conversation about Angel Reese as she has reached a milestone of sorts. But I'm just left wondering what we're celebrating when it comes to Angel Reese from a playing perspective. We'll get into that coming up a little later on as well. There will not be a rematch when it comes to the NBA Finals. We may have a matchup in the making that, well, I mean, look, we always do these conversations. Kurt Helin of Pro Basketball Talk at NBCSports.com, who joins us every Wednesday on the show for a conversation on the association. We always do this, and this is a media conversation of, well, who's going to care about Thunder and Pacers in the NBA Finals? You will, because you get paid to. I will, because it's my job to come on here every day and wax poetic about sports. And I know there are people that are going to say, well, the NBA's already signed its media rights deal. Who cares, right? I saw somebody put that out on social media yesterday. But, man, this might be one of the lower-rated NBA Finals that we've seen in some time, if this indeed winds up being the matchup, which it looks like where we're headed.
First off, it does absolutely look like where we're headed. I don't really see either of these teams being able to come back from 3-1. The Knicks may be slightly more likely, but it didn't feel like that last night. But as for this is the transition that the league was going to have to start dealing with at some point. The LeBron, Steph Curry, Anthony, Kevin Durant era was ending. The stars of that era were fading away. And who was going to step up? And it's Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and it's Tyrese Haliburton. And the league needs to promote them on this stage in this moment to make this thing work. They can't. There's a whole bunch of guys coming up with Wemby, obviously, and a whole lot of other young stars. But this is the first wave of it. It's not the biggest market, certainly. It's not bringing that New York TV market. But the NBA's been star-driven. And the problem is now it's that transition from the former era of stars to the new one is not, it wasn't with Jordan, it wasn't with anybody else. It's always just kind of rocky.
Well, look, the Stephen A. Smiths of the world aren't doing their network any favors when they're basically telling you Tyrese Haliburton isn't a superstar, and now he's on the verge of being the face representing the team that's on its way to the NBA Finals. He's basically saying the team representing the Eastern Conference in the NBA Finals doesn't have a superstar.
And he is, first off, he's really personable. He's really good on camera. He's really entertaining. He plays a really entertaining brand of basketball, as do the Pacers. They are spreading it out. That's the thing about the likely Thunder versus Oklahoma City Finals. If your complaints about the NBA are, there's too many threes, there's not enough defense, they don't play. These teams play much more old school basketball. Pacers are much more Showtime era. They shoot more threes, but Showtime era, get up and down. Thunder are a lockdown defense first and everything else second. Like, they play that style of basketball, but you're going to have to sell that. You're going to have to teach, not teach, but you're going to have to tell people what's out there and show them this and let them see it on this stage. And Haliburton is, look, Stephen A. Smith and everybody else would like to pump up Jalen Brunson as a huge NBA star. Tyrese Haliburton has outplayed him this series and absolutely outplayed him in Game 4. Was the best guy on the floor.
Where have the Knicks come up short? The turnovers have been an issue. Look, the officiating has not been great. It has felt like the Knicks have been fighting uphill against the officiating in terms of the way it's been called in this series. It has been inconsistent at best. But, you look at that. They made some adjustments in Game 3, and they were able to come from behind and get that game. But it always feels like they're playing from behind. Where have the Knicks come up short in your mind?
This series was all about pace. At the end of the day, but the top of the thing on my list of things to watch in this series in the preview was pace. And it's not just up and down, although that's part of it. It's in the half court. I get the Knicks needed to grind this thing down and slow it down, but when they've gone to the two big lineup to do that, the one that helped them come back in the last game, Pacers figured that out last night. They're like, you want to put Brunson, who's not the quickest of defenders, and two bigs who are slow out there at the same time, and we are going to run them ragged and move the ball around and get good looks because of it. And they kept doing it and put up a huge offensive numbers. The two bigs lineup isn't really working. The problem is that Josh Hart in place of Mitchell Robinson lineup isn't working, and Tibbs is now throwing stuff against the wall. This is not a great matchup for them, it turns out.
Do you give the Knicks a shot to get it back to Indiana for Game 6? They've been so bad at home. Absolutely. In this postseason.
I think what you saw in Game 3 from Minnesota, I don't know that it's going to be a blowout like Game 3 in Minnesota, but like desperation is a mother, desperation drives teams, man. And the Knicks will be desperate. They will play with a new level of energy, a new level of desperation. I think they hit some shots at home, and Timothy Chalamet and Ben Stiller get to go back to Indianapolis for one more game. But I don't see how these Knicks win 3 in a row against these Pacers.
Yeah, I have a hard time seeing it as well, and we'll get into sort of the potential matchup as it relates to Indiana and Oklahoma City coming up in just a few minutes here. But one thought on Rick Carlisle. For all we talk about the great head coaches in this league and what they've done, I mean, Rick Carlisle's on the verge of having this Pacers team in the NBA Finals. For all we like to talk about some of the great coaches around the league, we have to give him some flowers right now.
And by the way, let's not forget, he's got a ring, right? Remember, he was the coach in Dallas when they won Dirk Nowitzki years. He has long been thought of as good or better, the best X's and O's coach in the league. There's other guys who are very good at that.
And he's outcoached Thibodeau in this series. There's no getting around it.
Around Thibodeau in this series. And what he's gotten better at, it was relations with players. It was that side that was never quite as smooth as the X's and O's. He puts guys in great positions, but guys respected him. But there is more of a connection now than there used to be, I think, with Rick Carlisle and his players. And that has helped this team grow. He's really grown with this young team.
Yeah, I agree with you. In 20 seconds or less, Tibbs has done enough to keep his job, though, right? It's not going to be any rumblings of... is Mike Malone going to try and undercut him and steal the job?
Well, try, maybe. I don't see how you, after getting the conference final for the first time in 25 years, you cut him off at the knees like that.
Yeah.
But I don't think the leash is long next year, and we've seen why.
We're coming back. More with Kurt Helin on the other side. Welcome back on this Wednesday where we talk NBA with our friend Kurt Helin of Pro Basketball Talk at NBCSports.com. He does a terrific job on all things hoops. Joins us every week, midweek. And we continue the conversation as it relates to the NBA Conference Finals. And Kurt, we talked about the Knicks and Pacers and Indiana being one win away from a trip to the NBA Finals. And a potential matchup with the Oklahoma City Thunder, who are one win away. All they need is one more against the Minnesota Timberwolves for their second trip ever to the NBA Finals. And I'll borrow a term that I heard Richard Jefferson use. And I think it's very appropriate when you think about sort of the road here that's been building up for this Thunder team, and that is character building. Obviously, we knew what they were going to do against Memphis, and that was clubbing baby seals. But when you talk about what they've done, the 7-game series win against the Nuggets, a team that had been championship tested, that had won a title largely with that group, that won, so many games this season, and then, had its own struggles, but still pushed them to 7 games. That was a character building and a team building experience. Then, winning the first 2 games of this conference final against Minnesota, then getting dusted in Game 3 and leaving some doubt, at least in the minds of some of the pundits, after getting beaten by 41 points, and then coming back the way they did in Game 4 and finishing off Game 4 the way they did to put themselves in this position where they're just 1 win away from the conference finals. Talk about the experience that we've seen here and even some of the continued growth that we've seen with this young Thunder team and Mark Daigneault and what he's done with this Thunder team in the process?
First off, you're allowed to have some doubt and lose a little bit of faith when a team lets go of the rope like they did in game 3 like that. But you nailed it. Richard nailed it. I think that this was, for the Thunder, this has been the test. It's not a question of, hey, is Shea good enough? Is there enough talent on this roster? There was plenty of talent. But could Chet Holmgren, could Jalen Williams step up in a big moment and be the guys they need him to be? Can they be the number 2, the number 3 guys on a given night? Can their defense be this good in the playoffs? And can they win gritty, grinding games? And they showed us against Denver, yes, they could. They did it again in game 4 in this series. And everybody else has stepped up. I didn't really have Shea Gilgeous-Alexander questions, but I had questions about, that was really the question. Hey, is Jalen Williams ready for this moment? Is Chet Holmgren, is on down the line, is Lou Dort ready for this moment? And they have been. They have stepped up. Daigneault has stepped up and pushed the right buttons pretty much every night. This is a team that not only looks like the best team in the league by a stride or two, but has grown into that, like you said. They had to prove to us and show to themselves, I think, that they could win playoff down in the mud basketball games. And they've done that. And I don't know that the Pacers like to play in the mud. And if the Pacers don't like to play in the mud, that's going to be ugly for them.
How much of this, part of the process is this for Anthony Edwards in the growth and maturity and getting to that next level and becoming the player and becoming a championship contender for the Timberwolves? How much of that are we getting here? And how much of that is he absorbing when you hear the comments after game 4 where he's kind of deflecting away from the fact that maybe he wasn't as assertive as he needed to be in what was essentially a must-win for that team?
I think you've seen it over the course of this where he's even talked about, like, I hadn't seen a defense like this, essentially zoning off behind him. It wasn't quite a box and one that would have been pulled off in previous series. But like, hey, I hadn't really seen this before and it took me a while to process. I think you can actually like chart his growth to, a top 5 player in the league through this, where he's realizing, hey, it's one thing to do this in the regular season and have fun. In the postseason, it's another level. And I've got to be able to lift this team up because right now, against that very strong, relentless pressure and the doubles they're bringing and how they're handling him with Oklahoma City, who have great defenders and can bring the help late and can bring it from different directions. And he's made the simple play, right? He's, hey, all right, I'm getting it here. I'm going to pass it here. And his teammates haven't stepped up to the level he needs. But the great players don't make just the simple play. And I think he's realizing he's either got to be aggressive enough to get downhill and make more things happen or be able to make some other plays. But that's really, to me, that I think he's learned a lot and this team has learned a lot. And whatever that team looks like going forward, because it's going to need some adjustments over the years, they've got their guy. Well,
but to me, it's less about Minnesota and it's more about Oklahoma City to me. I mean, he was going to have to be hands down the very best player in the series, which he has not been, admittedly. And I think he would admit that. And I think everybody would have to admit that. That being said, they're at least one player away in Minnesota, aren't they?
Yeah, a true secondary shot creator is going to have to come from somewhere, either internally or externally. And I don't know who that guy is going to be or where he's going to come from. Like they've got some, look, they get expensive. Like a lot of teams, there's the Gobert contract and some other stuff. They've got some stuff to figure out.
Yeah, they certainly do. When you match up Indiana and Minnesota in the final minute and a half here, assuming that is the matchup that we get in the NBA Finals, when you have that matchup, what do you see on paper? How does Indiana, who's going to be I would imagine a rather sizable underdog in that series, how do you give Indiana a puncher's chance?
First off, the biggest losers in this are going to be the Sacramento Kings fans who wanted to tell me how the Haliburton trade for Sabonis was a win for them long term, that they were going to be fine. But now that I've settled that a little old score and feel pretty good about myself, this is a tough one. It's just that Oklahoma City's defense is not something Indiana has seen, and they are happy to play at pace. Oklahoma City will play fast for you, but their bigs get back. They just do more stuff, and the defense is going to overwhelm them. This is a rough matchup for Indiana. They don't have the shot creators to get past Dort and Caruso and Jay Williams and J Dub. Everybody they bring at them. I think it's a 5-game series.
Wow.
I don't think them.
5, huh?
Yeah.
Well, Indiana's been there've been a lot of naysayers out there against them, throughout this postseason.
They've gone farther than I thought they would. So I could be wrong, but I think they don't defend that well, and they've been able to get away with that. But Shea's going to tear them up. Their offense is going to tear them up, but they just haven't run into a defense like this. I mean, the second star, I know we keep talking about the second star being Jalen Williams. The second star is the defense.
For those that care, in Vegas right now, Oklahoma City minus 460 to win the NBA championship. The Pacers are 5-1, if you're caring about such things. Kurt Helin, Pro Basketball Talk at NBCSports.com. Always appreciate you, my friend. We'll see you next week.
Take care, my man.
We're coming back. Welcome back to this Wednesday edition of Sports Wrap. Keep the conversation moving. Coming up in 10 minutes, some hockey for you. Oilers and Stars Game 4. Something to recap, and looks like we have something to look forward to and look back at in looking forward to. I'll explain. But some NFL I want to talk about. There is all this conversation about what's going to happen with the Pittsburgh Steelers at the quarterback position, and namely whether or not Aaron Rodgers will or will not sign with the team. And a lot of people seem to think, and most NFL circles seem to think, that he's waiting until after mini camps. He doesn't want to have to go through the OTAs, and then he'll sign with the team. I'm still not 100% convinced of this, but the Steelers, I think, are comfortable either way, either going with Mason Rudolph or waiting for Aaron Rodgers. Well, not everybody seems to be in the camp of waiting for Aaron Rodgers. Cue Terry Bradshaw on a Pittsburgh sports talk station, The Buzz. Listen for yourself.
What do you think about possibly Aaron Rodgers being the quarterback?
That's a joke. He shouldn't. That is just, to me, is a joke. What are you going to do? Bring him in for 1 year? Are you kidding me? I mean,
that's not the Steelers' way, right?
No, man. That guy needs to stay in California and go, somewhere and chew on bark and whisper to the gods out there.
100%. These guys on the show, Mr. Bradshaw, know I'm not a fan of his. We've been around each other personally, and he was not a kind person.
All right, Sam Yarnell. So that's Terry Bradshaw on 103.7 The Buzz in Pittsburgh. Yucking it up with the guys there, Mr. Bradshaw. And love our folks in Pittsburgh, by the way, watching us on Sportsnet down there. And love Terry Bradshaw. I mean, I grew up hearing the tales of Terry Bradshaw's greatness from my father, who was the biggest Terry Bradshaw fan you will ever meet. And I wonder aloud if Terry Bradshaw is simply saying what a lot of people are thinking but don't want to say. And here's what I mean by this, Sam, and I want to get your thoughts on this. And I've talked about this ad nauseum for years in sports media. It's the dirty little secret that nobody likes to talk about in sports media. It's protecting your access. It's the fact that the ESPNs of the world and the Fox Sports of the world and the Pat McAfees of the world and all these different outlets, they simply won't say anything really bad about Aaron Rodgers because they don't want to piss off Aaron Rodgers, because they want to be able to get him on their show. And they don't want Aaron Rodgers to walk away from the on-field reporter when that on-field reporter, for whatever said network, wants to talk to them. And if they dare to say something bad about Aaron Rodgers, they risk that happening. Such is the case right now, as the only person he'll talk to is Pat McAfee. One, because Pat McAfee pays him. Two, because Pat McAfee will suck up to him and say, oh, he said he did such nice things. Terry Bradshaw doesn't care at this point in his career and in his life. He can say whatever he wants. He has that gravitas. He has carte blanche to say whatever he wants. I think there are a lot of people that if you gave them the truth serum that Terry Bradshaw takes on a daily basis, like him or not, think, he's past his prime or not. I think there are a lot of people out there that would say what Terry Bradshaw is saying right now, that this reeks of desperation by the Steelers, that even if you're getting a decent Aaron Rodgers and above Aaron Rodgers at this point, it's not a good enough Aaron Rodgers for the Steelers to actually win anything in a crowded and super competitive AFC landscape. What are you doing if you're the Steelers? That's basically what Terry Bradshaw is saying, and I think a lot of people would agree with it.
Yeah, so I think to your point about originally about how kind of a lot of the media outlets have dealt with this whole situation, I will say that that's the fine line that we walk in sports journalism that is, one of the few ways that sports journalism is unique to other sorts of journalism is that you have to deal with the same people over and over and over and over again. And PR is a huge part of it, right? And it's what they teach you as you get ready to begin your journalism careers, that you have to work closely with PR people. So that fine line of where can you say what really is the truth and where do you kind of have to sugarcoat things is one of the things it takes to become a mastery in the trade. With regard to the Aaron Rodgers thing, I think what's unique about Rodgers' situation is that we know that he listens and consumes the media more than any other professional athlete, and I don't think it's particularly close, despite this persona that he wants to give off of
that
him being in this bunker of not consuming anything. Well, you can kind of deduce based on all of the opinions that he gives that he kind of takes in everything and understands that the general consensus on Aaron Rodgers has shifted drastically over the course of the last, we could even draw back as far as 5 years ago with the entire contract fallout year in and year out with the Green Bay Packers, ultimately leading to him moving on to the Jets and now free agency. When it comes to Bradshaw's comments, I thought that people are going to listen when a Hall of Fame quarterback speaks in Pittsburgh. It's just as simple as that. Pittsburgh is a Steelers town. It's a sports town. And when a guy who wears a gold jacket gets on airwaves and says something to the general population, they're going to listen. It seems like the relationship between Aaron Rodgers and the Pittsburgh Steelers has soured before it even began, which is very interesting. And I think speaks a lot towards kind of what I said at the beginning here, towards how the general perception has turned on Aaron Rodgers over the course of the last however many years you want to draw it back in recent NFL history. It's a very interesting dichotomy, and I think under the radar in all of this is Mason Rudolph is doing everything right. He's saying everything correctly in the media, and he's acting very properly in terms of how he should be perceived within that, Pittsburgh fan base. So the Steelers are kind of in for one. I think that Aaron Rodgers is really staring down the barrel of the end of his career, and it's coming at him a lot more quickly than any of us anticipated.
Well, I don't know what choice Mason Rudolph has. I mean, look, you're either going to be the starter or you're going to be backing up, Aaron Rodgers next season. It's one or the other. I mean, it's pretty much an A or B sort of proposition in terms of what he's facing. But I think Terry Bradshaw's right in a lot of ways. And I think the one thing we keep having to revisit in all of this is this idea of sort of desperation here, and still having to come back to the reality, if you are a Steelers fan or the Steelers organization, that even if you do get Aaron Rodgers, you're still not a Super Bowl contender, because you're not getting Aaron Rodgers surrounded with a cast of guys that are going to elevate his game to the place it needs to be in order for you to be a Super Bowl contender, because he's not a Super Bowl caliber quarterback anymore. We're coming back. Welcome back. Coming up in 10 minutes, Angel Reese joins the 500-500 club, but I'm sorry, I just cannot get that excited about it. And the WNBA having to do a mea culpa of sorts, and I'm just wondering what's going on in the league offices. I've really gotta start questioning what WNBA leadership is doing on a day in, day out basis. We'll get to that coming up as well. But we are one game away in both the Eastern and Western Conference for the NHL from an Stanley Cup Finals rematch from 2024. Sam Yarnell, the Edmonton Oilers took a 3-1 series lead over the Dallas Stars with a win on Tuesday night in what was a very competitive game, despite what the final score would tell you. A couple of late empty netters kind of changing the final score, but don't let that final score fool you. As you know, I mean, it was basically a 2-1 game until the closing seconds of that game. Edmonton beats Dallas 4-1, and the power play was the story of this game, throughout. And then a 40-year-old Corey Perry, who's really, had a wonderful career, scores the goal that puts his team one win away from going back to the Stanley Cup Final and trying to avenge the loss they had to the Florida Panthers last year.
Yeah, I was looking for the tweet. I couldn't find it just now, but there was
right.
a graphic that went around on hockey Twitter last night. Corey Perry has more career Stanley Cup it's like more Stanley Cup playoff games in the last 20 years than more than half the league, I want to say. It's ridiculous how this guy just every year finds himself on a cup contender for like the last decade, literally. And again, it's because he continues to do things like he did last night. Obviously a 2-point game for a 40-year-old in a game where you go up 3-1 in a crucial game 4. Very, very, very important for this Edmonton team that, again, Jason, we talked yesterday with Dennis about this. It's no one saw this coming. No one saw Stuart Skinner being this elite.
That's
and he was
story.
Just that again on Tuesday night. It's absolutely ridiculous.
That's the story,
I'm here
Sam.
to say it.
That's the story. I mean, after the Game 1 collapse, shut out in Game 2, 33 saves on 34 shots in Game 3, 28 saves on 29 shots in Game 4. That is the story of this series, is Stuart Skinner. It has to be.
Well, and as we look ahead towards the Stanley Cup Final, because obviously it does seem like a foregone conclusion that it will be Edmonton and Florida, the question to me becomes, who's going to be the better goalie in this series? Is Stuart Skinner somehow going to outperform Sergei Bobrovsky? I don't think he's got a shot, but I mean, I also didn't think he had a shot to outperform Jake Ottinger, and look what he's done over the course of the last 4 games, or 3 games especially.
But it's one of the things, but can I just stop it? It's one of the things that does make hockey so unique beyond any other sport, that you can just get one player. Again, Connor McDavid has not lit it up in this postseason, and he is your biggest star on this team that is headed to the Stanley Cup. That it is some journeyman goaltender in Stuart Skinner that is, led them to this point. It is one of the things that makes hockey so unique, that you can ride one guy throughout a postseason that could just get hot at the right time. And it should once again be a lesson to all of these teams that you just got to get into the postseason and hope your goaltender gets hot. And you too can be the Edmonton Oilers that find yourselves here in a position to play for a Stanley Cup. And I just want to say this, and I know you were talking about this matchup of goaltenders. I just want to say this. I know some people are dreading the idea of Florida and Edmonton again. And I know the people in the media are definitely dreading the idea, if you have to do the travel in this series, of Florida and Edmonton again. I am sorry to Dennis Bernstein. But if I'm the NHL, man, just start leaning into this thing. It's not often you get rematches for your biggest championship in your biggest, in your sport, in this huge league. If I'm the NHL, I start leaning into this the moment this matchup is consummated. I start leaning into the idea that you have this matchup in a league where you don't get a lot of these sorts of rematches. I start leaning into this if I'm the NHL, Sam.
Yeah, I don't think it's a bad idea, especially in a day and age in sports where marketing is everything, right? And social media is everything. And I think it's especially interesting because when we talk about that, when we talk about social media being everything and how far apart these two teams are, you have such a grasp over how much area you're covering essentially with the travel to these two cities. So yeah, I'm 100% with you. Just real quick, back to the goalie thing.
Yeah.
Stuart Skinner 110-1 to win the Conn Smythe. I know we were just talking yesterday with Dennis Bernstein about Freddie Anderson and if Carolina somehow made a turnaround and how he wouldn't have a chance at the Conn Smythe. Stuart Skinner to me, I know he was bad at the beginning of the playoffs, and I know he only got put in this spot because of an injury. 110-1 feels like a number that you could definitely take advantage of in terms of Stuart Skinner winning the Conn Smythe Trophy this year.
Yeah. Certainly. Florida plus 105 to win the Stanley Cup right now. Edmonton plus 110 if you're looking at those.
Gosh.
Yeah, I know.
Are you serious? Those
yes.
are the splits we get with with neither team having clinched the final? That's a little ridiculous.
Yep. Dallas at 13-1 right now. Carolina at 18-1. If you're looking at either of those teams coming from behind and then being able to win the whole thing. So, yep.
Well, hold on a second.
Yep. You got 10 seconds, so you gotta...
I know, I got to work this in. If you're thinking about betting either of those teams to win the Cup, just bet them to win their series. The number's basically the same.
All right, fair enough. We're coming back. Much more to do. Angel Reese, 500, but who cares? Welcome back to Sports Wrap. Coming up in 10 minutes, it's odds and ends. PGA trying to make some changes to the Tour Championship to get you interested. Will it work? Probably not. Get to that and more. Can the Yankees do something, by the way, other than Devin Williams in the ninth inning? He almost ruined what was left of my Tuesday night last night, Sam Yarnell. He almost ruined what was left of my Tuesday night. We'll get to that coming up. So, Angel Reese, there was some celebration on social media today because she had 500 points and 500 rebounds for her WNBA career. And I'm sitting here going, yay, all right, wonderful. And then I sat and thought about it, and I'm like, wait, why are we celebrating this again? I'm trying to figure out why we're celebrating, Angel Reese for this milestone, as they want to call it, when by all metrics that you can really put out there, she's really not a very good basketball player. And look, this has nothing to do with the antics and the Caitlin Clark stuff and all of that. And what's crazier is she actually finished 12th in MVP voting last year, which, as much as people want to go gaga about the influx of talent into the WNBA, makes me wonder how talented your league is if Angel Reese finished 12th in MVP voting. Another subject entirely. But this is for somebody who in her WNBA career so far has shot 38.4% from the field. We're not talking about a perimeter shooter. We're talking about somebody that plays the game at the rim. Well, she gets all these rebounds. Yes, they're on her own misses. She can't shoot free throws all that well. She's an average free throw shooter at best. You want to talk about, maybe she's a good defensive player? Maybe. Okay. She can't do anything from the perimeter. Look, on the collegiate level, she may have excelled to a degree, Sam, and to a point, and been able to shine on that level. But when you match her up against the best women's basketball players in the world, I'm sorry. She is an average player at best right now. Now, here's the upside. She's 4 games into her second season? There's nowhere to go but up, as far as I'm concerned, because she can develop. If she wants to develop a mid-range shooting game, I don't ever see her being, somebody that's launching up threes and, becoming that sort of player. If she wants to develop a mid-range game, if she wants to get better at her craft, she can. Here's the problem. She has come into this league as somebody more interested in her off-the-court product and bettering that and capitalizing on that than she is bettering her game as a WNBA player. And all of you may come at me and say this is hatred for Angel Reese. Some of you might even be dumb enough to come at me and say this is race-related. Come on, bring it. I dare you. This is simply watching basketball and having watched basketball for more than half of my life. She's not a very good basketball player when you stack her up against the best in the world, Sam. Sorry.
No, she's
not.
Sorry. She's not, Jason. You're exactly right. So I had my own personal opinions about this, but then I was like, in this era that we've entered into where the WNBA media space has become such a
toxic,
hostile,
oh my God,
and such a hostile minefield. I think that's a great way to describe it. I decided that I would just let some numbers do the talking.
Please.
So because I don't have any grasp, for the WNBA, what 500 rebounds means or what 500 points compared to 500 rebounds means. So I did a little research, looked into the active WNBA leaders, the active career WNBA leaders in rebounds. And obviously there are big names up there. Your Asia Wilsons, right? Your Brittany Griners. I thought, Brittany Griner's probably a pretty good example to use. They're both the big, obviously Obviously, Angel Reese is a 4, Brittany Griner was a 5, but doesn't really matter for the sake of this argument. So I looked into it a little bit, and it actually took Brittany Griner longer to get to 500 rebounds than it's taken Angel Reese. The problem is, Brittany Griner scored 541 points in her second season alone. But that was Brittany Griner, and she was an all-time talent coming out of college, and we knew that, right? She was the stuff when she was coming out. So then I was like, who else could I compare her to? So then I went to Dearica Hamby, right? Dearica Hamby. Who's Dearica Hamby? Well, let me tell you a little bit about Dearica Hamby. Dearica Hamby took, let me just do some quick math here. It was in her 4th season where she eclipsed the 500 points mark, right? Now you may be thinking, okay, well then that makes sense. You do the Angel Reese calculation. Angel Reese probably better than Dearica Hamby, right? No offense to Dearica Hamby. That's just what I would assume a lot of people in the modern day and age of WNBA media think. Angel Reese better than Dearica Hamby. So Dearica Hamby must have taken at least 4 seasons to get to 500 points. Yeah, Dearica Hamby had 500 points less than before the end of her 3rd season. So comparatively, right, Angel Reese is just not playing efficient basketball. That's the conclusion that you come to here. And when you look at the NBA and what has made it so successful in this day and age, it's the efficiency of the game. And that's what brings viewers in. And that's what makes superstars real superstars. And that's what makes Caitlin Clark so great for the WNBA, and Asia Wilson, who is an incredibly effective, efficient basketball player, so great for this game. So my conclusion, Angel Reese, one of the most inefficient players the WNBA has ever seen.
Again, she's got time to turn it around and change at least the narrative for me. But she's going to have to put in a lot of work to do it. Time will tell. We're coming back with odds and ends. Just about time to put the wraps on this baby for a Wednesday. On Thursday's show, if it's a Thursday, it means David Ardsma's hanging out with us, the former big league reliever, our closer. Talk some baseball with him. Maybe he can talk me off the ledge on this Devin Williams thing. Yankees up 3-0. Carlos Rodon throwing a great game last night, Sam, and Devin Williams comes in and almost blows the whole thing last night. He just can't be trusted in the 9th inning. Just make him the 8th inning guy. I know you're paying him a ton of money and you don't want, I get it, but Devin Williams cannot be trusted in the 9th inning. He does not have it anymore as the 9th inning guy. Let him be a setup guy. Maybe one day it'll come back. That day is not now. That day is not now. That day isn't now. That day isn't here. Yeah, you know what I mean. All right, A couple of reminders for you wonderful folks. The Sports Wrap with Jason Page podcast, available on all your favorite podcasting platforms. Go and subscribe to it today. It's this show in audio form, commercial-free, Monday through Friday. Go and check that out. Also, you can watch us in addition to all of the TV affiliates that we're on across America and Canada. Oh, Canada, we love you. Make sure to go and watch us as well over on Spotify. You can watch us on YouTube. Our YouTube channel is up and running, and it is wonderful. The Sports Wrap with Jason Page YouTube channel, the home of this show, commercial-free. Also, Sports Wrap Shorts. Clips from the show, clips not from the show. Sometimes news breaks outside of our taping window for this show, and when it does, we will be sure to put clips up there. Sports Wrap with Jason Page YouTube channel and our Sports Wrap Shorts. Go and subscribe to that today as well. Without any further delay, ladies and gentlemen, time for some odds and ends. Odds and ends. To put a bow on the WNBA conversation we were just having, Sam, the WNBA having to do a mea culpa of sorts. Our bad. They rushed to put out a press release after the Indiana Fever, Chicago Sky opening weekend, opening WNBA game. Because somebody said something or thought somebody had said something, and racist, things were being thrown out allegedly from Indiana Fever fans towards Angel Reese. So much so that the WNBA rushed out a release and rushed out a PR statement saying, we're going to investigate this. There's no room for this. And then you had media piling on this. We even said on this show, and I said on this show, there's no place for it if it had happened. Well, now the WNBA has had to come out and put out a statement yesterday saying, oh yeah, by the way, we looked into that. It never happened. We didn't find any instances of it. Nothing substantiated. This is why you are left to wonder, what is Kathy Engelbert? What are they doing at the WNBA offices? Who's running this ship? Like, is it just going around in circles? Like, I mean, it's like a Bugs Bunny cartoon sometimes watching the way this league gets run, Sam.
Yeah, I think that this year the WNBA has certainly heightened their social media relevance, and with that comes a lot of obstacles, and there are going to be growing pains with those obstacles, and perhaps we're seeing those firsthand with all of this.
I could understand it last year. You've had a year now to sort of get used to this heightened visibility, if you will. You've got to start growing into your body a little bit here if you're the WNBA. And they're just, I'm sorry, I see too many of these mistakes from this league.
Well, at the same time, I think that the visibility isn't linear. It's exponential. And I think because of that, the growing pains, while, they become different, they evolve over time, they're going to continue just because of the nature of the beast and how it continues to grow. Again, I think the curve is shaped like this. It doesn't go straight up. So it's harder to deal with because you don't necessarily know the gravity of the actions that you'll be taking from a PR standpoint until after the fact. So, I just want to give them a little bit of slack in terms of I kind of get what it means to have all of this thrust upon you in terms of viewership and eyeballs, and all of a sudden you make one wrong move and it's got tenfold the repercussions that it did even 8-10 months ago.
Sam's giving him slack. I am not. Odds and ends, the PGA Tour Championship, their end of year event. Well, they're eliminating the controversial. It's only controversial if people care, and nobody cared about the Tour Championship anyway, so I'm not sure how controversial it is. The starting strokes format from the Tour Championship, they're getting rid of it, starting with this year's Tour Championship at East Lake in Atlanta. All 30 players in the field will start at even par in a stroke play tournament. You like it, Sam?
No, I actually don't. I actually liked the old format, and everyone kept referring to it as controversial, but then I never saw the controversy arise from it. I don't really understand what the problem was with the format, considering it had been the format for long enough that everyone was used to it and everyone knew what it meant going in. Doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me, but I'm interested to see how they kind of deal with all of this on the back half. It feels to me like it's going to end up being like the NASCAR playoffs, where you end up on Sunday with a bunch of guys going around the track or going around the course that are just kind of there. They're just playing to keep up with everyone. They're not actually playing for position or anything.
No. Winner gets a 5-year exemption, all that money. It's great. It's going to wrap it up for us today on the show. Thank you to Sam for hanging out with me. As always, thanks to all of you for watching. Thanks to Kurt Helin, Pro Basketball Talk at NBCSports.com, for hanging out with us as well. David Aardsma on the show tomorrow. We'll talk baseball with him. We'll see you all then. I'm Jason Page.